wrestling referee. When I was asked to MC tonight for the National Wrestling Hall of Fame banquet, I was honored and gladly accepted. However, in looking out at the audience right now, I'm struck by the fact that at one time or another, almost every single person in this room has been mad at me for a call that I either made or didn't make. So, a lot of coaches nodding their heads out there. So what I'd like to do tonight is make a few introductory remarks before we go ahead with the food and the banquet. So right now I would like to welcome Mr. Mark Black, who is chairman of the California chapter of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame.
First of all, thank you for coming, especially on a kind of a different time with a hurricane hitting. But it's important that we're all here. It's important that we recognize wrestlers and coaches that have put a lot of time and effort into what they do. And maybe their families don't always appreciate what they do, but I think all the kids do. So I would like to shout out to the group of people that put this together, the committee. They may or may not all be in here, but if you're a part of the committee for this, please stand up. So most of you know Cliff, and I don't know if you know Coach Notch or not, but I do. But it's their kids that are serving us tonight, and I want a special thanks to them. They put on a great show here, and we could not do it without them. So let's give a big hand to Cliff and Coach Notch. Also, we have, within the committee, we have quite a few members that are super members. They actually put together this thing. And I'd like to shout out to Dale, Natalie, Karen, Stan, and the rest of the committee that's here. So, and I'm going to give this back over to Randy to carry this program together. And thank you again for coming. It's, like I said, it's from Santa Monica. It was kind of an interesting ride, skiing on the 405 South. It was interesting. But enjoy yourself, and let's all be safe when we go home. Thank you.
The invocation tonight will be given by Larry Rodriguez. Larry is the pastor at Desert Rain Church in Downey. Larry is a former wrestler, and his children and grandchildren participated in the sport. His son Anthony was a California state champion. His sons Larry and Gabriel both placed in the state tournament. Several of his grandchildren have also competed in wrestling at the high school and college level. Pastor Larry Rodriguez will give us the invocation now.
What an honor it is to be here among you all. I feel like a nobody in the room filled with somebodies. When it comes to wrestling, which is the greatest sport in the world, how many of you agree with that? One thing I did not expect when I came in this evening, the book that's before you, right? All the history of California State Wrestling and the great people that are involved in it. I just want to make note to you as a proud grandfather. On page 64, my granddaughter, my oldest granddaughter, well, two of them wrestle for Cerritos College. One of them was the first inaugural state champ at 116 pounds for Cerritos College. So I'm just excited about that. But anyway, it's great to be here with you. So we gather here tonight to celebrate the remarkable achievements of our National Wrestling Hall of Fame inductees. Each one of these people each one embodies the dedication and perseverance and excellence that's required in this great sport of wrestling. So as we come together for this California Chapter Hall of Fame banquet, let us take a moment to reflect on the journeys that have brought us here and to express our gratitude for the passion and hard work that elevated these individuals to Hall of Fame status. Would all the inductees please stand at this moment? Those of you who are being inducted tonight, will you please stand? Can we give them a hand? Go ahead and be seated. So at this time, I ask you to bow your heads with me in reverence and open our hearts in thankfulness as we offer this invocation. Heavenly Father, we humbly gather in your presence, grateful for the opportunity to honor these 10 individuals who have left an indelible mark on our sport of wrestling. We acknowledge the sacrifices made, the countless hours given, the struggles that they have overcome, and the victories they have achieved. We also recognize the families, coaches, and supporters who have provided unwavering encouragement and assistance along the way. We ask for your blessing upon these inductees and their achievements, that they may continue to inspire generations to come. May their stories serve as a reminder that with determination, discipline, and a strong spirit, anything is possible. May their legacies motivate others to pursue their dreams with the same fervor and dedication. As we enjoy this banquet and the fellowship it brings, let us also remember the broader lessons that sports teach us: the value of teamwork, the importance of sportsmanship, the ability to rise above challenges with grace and integrity. We extend our gratitude to the organizers, the volunteers, and those who have contributed to making this event possible. May their efforts be rewarded with the joy of seeing the impact of their hard work on the lives of these exceptional inductees. In your name we gather, and in your name we celebrate. May this evening be filled with joy, camaraderie, and deep appreciation for the achievements of our National Wrestling Hall of Fame inductees. May the spirit of sportsmanship and the pursuit of excellence guide us as we honor these deserving individuals tonight. And we pray these in the name of Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Thank you.
Now I would like to introduce Tom Slowey, who is the chairman of the Board of Governors for the National Wrestling Hall of Fame.
On behalf of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame, I wish to thank the National Wrestling Hall of Fame California chapter for their hard work and efforts toward hosting this evening's induction ceremony and banquet. Thank you. Hold on. The California chapter is very highly regarded within the National Wrestling Hall of Fame, and we are grateful for your continued leadership and support of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame's mission. To the class of 2023 inductees, you know who you are, and your families. Congratulations on your induction into the National Wrestling Hall of Fame. Your willingness to serve and lifelong commitment to wrestling has positively impacted and changed innumerable young lives. Thank you for your years of service, leadership, and guidance. This evening's class of 22 honorees have given back so very much to wrestling and their communities. They do so quietly and humbly, without any expectation of recognition or praise. The world needs more wrestlers, right? They do it because they understand what wrestling has meant to them and wish to pay it forward and invest in their communities. One of the many reasons this evening is so special is because the California wrestling community, led by the leadership and support of the California chapter of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame, is afforded the opportunity to formally honor and recognize these exceptional individuals who have blessed our sport through their commitment, leadership, and life example. It is with great personal pride and thanks that I extend the National Wrestling Hall of Fame's congratulations to the class of 2023 honorees. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Wrestling dates back to 776 BC. It's mentioned in the Bible. Wrestling first appeared as a medal sport in the 1904 Olympics. Tonight we are honoring 10 men who have participated as wrestlers, coaches, referees, and contributors, and who have dedicated their lives to the betterment of the sport. They have spent countless hours devoted to wrestling. Their impacts on the lives of others involved in wrestling cannot be measured. Someone once said, no matter how good you were at wrestling, you will spend most of your life using the values that you learned in wrestling, not the technical skills. And yet, while the National Wrestling Hall of Fame has singled out these 10 individuals for recognition tonight and are honoring them, everyone here is involved with sustaining the sport of wrestling and keeping it alive. Look at the person next to you, across the table from you, or sitting at the table next to you. You are what makes wrestling thrive, and you are the ones that will define the sport for future generations. Tonight's first inductee, the National Wrestling Hall of Fame Lifetime Service Award for Wrestling, goes to Don Apodaca. Don has been involved with the sport of wrestling as a competitor and a coach since the 1960s. In recent years, Don has made a commitment to girls wrestling, and his involvement has been instrumental in the increasing popularity of girls wrestling. Ladies and gentlemen, 2023 inductee into the National Wrestling Hall of Fame for lifetime service to wrestling, Mr. Don Apodaca.
I just want to thank everybody for showing up, not for me, but for the sport. It's done so much for me. It's meant so much in my life, and all of you are involved, so you guys are, everybody here really belongs up here. I have a few individuals I need to mention. First, Catherine Apodaca, my wife. Could you stand up? Okay. There she is, okay. And everybody knows how much the wife puts up with and supports. She comes to the matches, she drives kids sometimes, and I couldn't do it without her for sure. Secondly, the National Wrestling Hall of Fame for putting this thing on. This is pretty incredible. I remember when, I think it was 1973, 72, Myron Roderick, I read about him, and he was talking about starting something like the National Wrestling Hall of Fame, and I thought, oh, I know they have something for baseball and football, but for wrestling, that's amazing. And now it's grown. It's got two places, one in Iowa, one in Oklahoma. I went and visited it. If you ever get a chance to go to the National Wrestling Hall of Fame in Stillwater, don't pass it up. I want to thank some of the coaches who've had a huge effect on my life. Lenox High School, Mike House. He turned my life around. And then everybody that's been around a while knows the great Dave Hanksteller. Dave Hanksteller, I mean, more effect on me than anybody in my life except my father. Next, Frank Powell and Adam State. He took a bunch of El Camino guys back there, and we won the NAIA National Championship. Got us scholarships. We all graduated. Everybody that came from California and went to Adams State graduated. I want to talk about how I got into wrestling. I was in cross country, and they said, "Hey, there's a fun sport, wrestling." I think it was raining, and we had to go in the weight room. And I said, "Oh, I was thinking about going out for another sport, maybe basketball." And they made it sound like wrestling was fun. So I tried it out, and I thought, hey, it's fun. So then we were going to have a meet, and I remember Larry Dolphin. He wanted to wrestle at our first meet, and the coach had us wrestle off. And I said, "Oh, Larry Dolphin, he's a nice guy. The winner gets to go. He really wants to go." So we wrestled. I don't know how it would have gone, but I didn't try very hard because I kind of supported Larry Dolphin. Well, he went. I don't know how he did. He came back, and he walked around school saying, "I beat Apodaca in the wrestle-off." He never did again. So, you know. So then we went to Linwood High School, and we had a guy named Bob Spillers. He was a league champ. He was really, really good, the top guy on our team. And he got me warmed up, and he says, "Go out there, wrestle." So I went out, and this guy came out, and he grabbed me, put me in a cradle, pinned me really fast. It was my first match ever. And I got up, and I said, "Wow, I wrestled in front of people." I was so happy. And I ran off the mat, and I was smiling, and Bob grabbed me, and he took me aside and shook me. He said, "When you lose, don't smile. Don't be so happy." So I learned a few things about life just from that. Okay. I want to thank the coaches who have brought me into their schools. At Mater Dei, it was Vic Corey. Some of you remember him. He coached there for 17, 18 years. Rich might mention him too. Mike Seals, who picked me up and got me out of Mater Dei. Thank you. And took me in. And then Coach Seals, he's a fantastic technician. And he has so many kids. I don't know how he recruits so many kids. And he had a few girls in there. And at Mater Dei at that time, that didn't happen. And I said, "What are these girls there? Are they wrestling?" Yeah. And then the girls mentioned to me, "Oh, well, we can't go to the meets." And Coach Seals said, "Well, you can take them if you want." And I took them to a meet. And at that time, women's wrestling is a great thing. And they're very high level. But at that time, I didn't know that. And we walked into this tournament, and I see over on the mat a couple girls wrestling. It was the first women's or girls match that I ever saw. And one of the girls was Victoria Anthony. And I said, "Oh, this is wrestling." Oh my gosh. So I started coaching girls wrestling, and I got to coach it with Coach Seals at Tustin. And we had a few of our graduates go on to Golden West College. And Coach Silva over there, he let them come into the room. He always encourages everybody. And I went over there to check on them. And one of them, Jasmine Segura. Can you stand up, Jasmine? Yeah. And we heard about a state championship up in Santa Rosa. And so we went up there, and we took, 3 girls, right? And Jasmine took first, so as far as women goes, I guess she's the pioneer state champion at Santa Ana College. At that time, it was sort of a extra sport. They almost said you're a club team. And just this Thursday, 4 days ago, the athletic director called, "Well, Sadie, can you stand up?" Sadie and I worked together at Santa Ana College. And if you know Sadie, you know he's got good technique. I take roll, he does technique. I do a little bit of technique, and they say, "That's old-fashioned." anyway, the athletic director called us in and said, we're making it a real team. You're going to get paid. You're going to be paid coaches. And I said, oh, thank you. And Sadie said, how much do we get paid? So she said, I don't know for sure, but it'll be more than last year. Okay, so, one reason that you stopped me when I hit 5 minutes. One reason that I kind of wanted to go over to the college, because I really like coaching at Tustin. Actually, coaching high school kids I think is in some ways more fun, especially when Coach Seals does all the paperwork. But I kept seeing colleges drop wrestling. You remember a few years ago we had what? Fullerton Junior College, Cypress Junior College, Orange Coast Junior College, Fullerton, Cal State Fullerton. What was the other one? We had Golden West, and we had all these junior colleges, which I think is the perfect conduit for wrestlers, or junior colleges, community colleges, pulling kids in and getting them started, and some of them could transfer on. It changes their life. Most of them, it really changes their life, just like it changed my life for sure. And they've been dropping these colleges, so I thought, I don't want to see one drop. I'm going to go start one. And so I went over to Santa Ana College, and Coach Silva let me come in a room and bring some girls, and now we've got a team, and we're actually a real team. I'm not there for the pay, but the fact that it's paid means it's an official sport. And so instead of dropping college programs, it starts some programs. It did break my heart when teams were getting dropped. And let me tell you about the first great wrestler I ever saw. Okay, and he just happens to be in the room. And my coach, Coach House at Lenox High School, took us to a tournament. And I'm up in the stands after getting eliminated, of course. And Aseo Mura from Lusinger High School, and Tom McCann from Aviation are down there in the finals. And Tom had that little sweep single that I took 5 years to learn. I finally learned it. And Mura edged, he barely won. And Mura barely won. And then Tom went to El Camino with head coach Hengsteller. And Mura came over to work out. And Mura left with his tail between his legs and didn't come back. Because McCann, in my mind, was one of the first great wrestler I ever saw. And he's here. Can you stand up, Tom? And Regina, stand up, please. He was one of my heroes. He flew out here from Nebraska. We're both over 40. I don't want to go into how much. And Tom's coaching at University of Nebraska this year. And he was just telling us about his prospects. So everybody in here I admire, and some of you I really admire, and I appreciate it. And I appreciate and I'd like my son and my daughter-in-law and Clementine, my granddaughter, to stand up. And I have a couple others up in Oregon. They couldn't make it because of the weather. And that's it. Thank you so much.
The next National Wrestling Hall of Fame Lifetime Service to Wrestling Award is for Mr. John Beresford. The late John Beresford had a long and distinguished career in wrestling. He was involved as a competitor and a coach since the 1940s. Ladies and gentlemen, 2023 inductee into the National Wrestling Hall of Fame for lifetime service to wrestling, Mr. John Beresford, accepting for him and his family, Dr. T.J. Van Dusen.
Thank you. My name is T.J. Van Dusen, and I appreciate you guys allowing me to be here for this. I'm here today to accept this award on behalf of Coach John Beresford and his family. Sadly, Coach B, as we called him, he passed away August 3rd, just a couple weeks ago this year at the age of 94. When he found out about this, they went through a lot of work to get him ready for it, and he was doing really good, and then just had a heart attack just a couple weeks ago. So his family's upset to that they couldn't make it, and with the weather conditions coming down from Lake Arrowhead, it was just too hard, too dangerous, and just a little too much for them right now. I last wrestled for Coach B 30 years ago this year, actually. 1993 was his last year. Scott Chapman and myself got the opportunity to be his captains that year, and it was great. And it's probably been almost that long since I last cut weight, as you might be able to tell. I love Coach B. I loved his stories. I loved the way that he got so involved with them. And if you knew him at all or remember him at all, it was always, he was grabbing that long nose of his and he moved into his arms, and he always sat in that squat position and just so intently looking at you and giving wisdom through all the advice, or with all the advice and everything that he had learned throughout the years. And if you knew him well enough, you'd know that these 6 minutes that he would get up here, we'd stretch those to 15 or 20. So I never like to spend too much time on the mat, so if I get my wrestling matches over as quickly as possible, I would, so I'll try to spare you today. So Coach B, he was born in 1929, small town in Pennsylvania. When he began wrestling in high school, he was influenced by a gentleman named Coach Charlie Spadale, who was from Penn State, and he's also a fellow National Wrestling Hall of Fame member. Coach B was drafted by the Army not long after high school, and then with the GI Bill, he went to Cal State. I think it was Long Beach State. Thank you, Long Beach State, and graduated in 1959. In 1961, he started the Rim of the World Wrestling Club up there in Lake Arrowhead, and then by 1965, he started teaching up there. And I think the principal found out that at that time they only had 3 sports. They had football, they had men's basketball, and then they had baseball. And so the principal figured out that Coach John had a background in wrestling, and so they wanted to start a wrestling program up there. With nowhere to do it, they started looking for space, and there's only 465 kids that went to that school. I think it was grades 7 through 12 at the time. And with that, they had 8 kids that came out for it. And so between the 8 of them and Coach B, they found a space underneath the old gym. They were able to clean that out, get rid of all the textbooks, and remove all the broken chairs and desks and all the other junk that was sat in there, and eventually make that into what's called the tunnel. And we've all wrestled through there since 1965, and it's still a great room today. So if there's one thing, it's one thing to start, sorry, I missed that part already, but Coach B served as a high school coach there for 28 seasons through 1993, and then he was an assistant coach for another 10 years after that before retiring. They won 16 league championships, 2 CIF Southern Section Division titles, and then they had a dual meet record of 210 and 20. So I think there's still a couple. He initiated the tournaments that are up there. One's called the John Beresford Classic Tournament, and then one's named after my sister, Marcy. That's up there as well. So I wanted to share a few words from people that loved and respected him so much. So these are just quotations from different people as of recent. So there are many that would say they would not be who they are today if it weren't for Coach B. He is the man that started the program that so many of us went through. He had a way of making you believe in yourself, which I find true. He is in the Wrestling Hall of Fame for his outstanding accomplishments as a coach and his unmatched devotion to the sport of wrestling. His dedication to wrestling extended far beyond his years as a head coach. His legacy will live on through all who enter the tunnel. He taught us that every obstacle we encounter, either on or off the mat or in life, was an opportunity to learn and become stronger. Coach was one of those influential people that kept kids in school, taught them to believe in themselves, to strive for great things, and sometimes to give back to others by coaching and following down the same path that he followed. Coach Beresford has become a legend. He was not born a legend, though through his character and the way he lived his life, leading by example, he became a legend. So with Coach, it was always about the details. It was about the hard work. So following the fundamentals, you just stressed so hard on the fundamentals. Like with the cross-face cradle, it was always the same thing over and over. Always do it this way, always do it this way. Just work it, work it, work it. And when you own the basic, he believed and taught that when you own the basics, you own the steps, and you work harder with everything else, when everyone else is tired, you can accomplish so much more. Without saying it, he taught us that when you grow up wrestling, everything you do after that is a little easier than it would have been otherwise. In closing, Scott Kraft recently said, one of Coach Beresford's most enduring qualities was his ability to tell a captivating story. His tales were filled with wisdom, humor, and inspiration. Coach B lived the life everyone dreams about, and he did it without asking for anything in return. So on behalf of Coach B, his family, and all that had the privilege of knowing Coach John Beresford, thank you for this honor. I know how appreciative he was to be inducted into the National Wrestling Hall of Fame. Thank you, everyone.
The next National Wrestling Hall of Fame Lifetime Service Award to Wrestling goes to Coach John Phillips. John's wrestling career has spanned over 50 years as a coach. He has compiled over 400 dual meet victories. He served as the head wrestling coach for Irvine High School for 34 years and was a longtime member of the Orange County Wrestling Coaches Association. Ladies and gentlemen, 2023 inductee into the National Wrestling Hall of Fame for lifetime service to wrestling, Mr. John Phillips.
I'd like to thank the board of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame for providing me the opportunity to become an honored member of this Hall of Fame. I was really pleased to see Mark Black here. And I think it's on page 4 of the program. You can see all the members of the committee that made the decisions about the nominations. And so, I want to thank that committee for enabling me to be a part of this Hall of Fame. I want to thank my wife for standing by me all these years of competing and coaching. We officially met in the summer of 1972. We married in 1978, and we are celebrating our 45th wedding anniversary today, August 20th. So, Karen, you want to stand up? That's Karen. Thank you, Karen, for all of your loyalty over the years. I appreciate it. I want to thank my daughters, Lauren and Rebecca, for allowing me to pursue this pathway. I was absent many weekends, but with your mom's guidance, basically she raised them, we witnessed multiple activities that you participated in and made you who you are today, which I'm very proud of. Thank you, Lauren, and Lauren's husband, Charlie, is here today. Charlie and Lauren McDonald, for your support, or for your attendance. Lauren and Charlie, you want to stand up for a second? My daughter, her husband. I started wrestling my freshman year in high school. Did not realize at the time that I would not be leaving the practice room for over 50 years. I went out because I had a buddy say, hey, you should try wrestling. You don't have to compete against your own body size. And considering I weighed 92 pounds, it made a lot of sense. So I went into wrestling as a result, and I kind of thrived on the competition. But I want to acknowledge my first mentor, who's not here tonight, but nonetheless, my high school wrestling coach, Gary Kimbrell, who was really a football coach coaching the wrestling team. He, one of his, what I wanted to say is he instilled in me the value of structure, organization, and a hard work ethic. Thank you, Coach Kimbrell, for the examples you set. He retired from teaching in 2000 to Hawaii. Hopefully it wasn't in Maui, but Coach Kimbrell, you affected me more than you realize. Someone that is here tonight is Erwin Goldblum. Erwin, you want to stand up, Erwin? Erwin I asked him, I said, can I tell him he's 90 years old, and he was at the racetrack in Del Mar yesterday for 2 days. Yeah, so he's still getting around, and his head's straight. He's a good guy, and basically, Coach Goldblum taught me about conditioning. He told me about hard work ethic and organization, everything. Coach Goldblum taught me how to wrestle. He taught me the skills that enabled me to place in the state meet and the JC state meet. Erwin wrestled at UCLA. He was a longtime wrestling official. He actually officiated at the NCAA tournament in 1965, Division I tournament. He was a longtime high school and JC wrestling coach, and again, taught me the skills that enabled me to finish as a place winner for the JC state meet. Thank you, Erwin, for doing that. I appreciate it, and still supporting me today by being here. I want to thank Bill Kalivas, who's right here in front of me. Bill, you want to stand up real quick? Oh, he was raising his hand. All right. He's also a graduate. He doesn't tell anybody. He went to Beverly Hills High School, and then he wrestled for Irwin at LA Pierce College, and Bill recruited me to Cal State Bakersfield. At the time, Bill was a graduate assistant for Joe Say and finished wrestling at Cal State as an All-American. He coached the wrestling program at Bakersfield College for 27 years, and he's also a member of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame as well. By the way, Bill was present at my wedding back in 1978, and he was my best man, so we go way back. And lastly, Bill was 7 decades yesterday. He's 70, so if you happen to get a chance, wish him a happy birthday, because that's pretty significant. Thank you, Bill, for all your support. I want to thank his son, Karis, for making the trip down from Portland to celebrate this occasion. Karis wrestled at Bakersfield High School. Karis is right here. Stand up, Karis, or raise your hand. That's Karis. That's Bill's son. He was a CIF champion at Bakersfield High School, finished second in state wrestling for his father at Bakersfield College, and finished his wrestling career at Portland State. And he's still there today, so I guess he likes it. I want to thank Brad Morton and Jean Morton, his wife, for their attendance today. Thank you for your support. Brad was a teammate for a year with me at Cal State Bakersfield, where he was a couple of years behind me. He and Jean lived in Bakersfield for several years before, well, Joe Gonzalez and John Acevedo kind of ruined that plan, I think. And he ended up transferring. Joe Gonzalez is right here. He transferred to Chico State, and Brad ended up finishing as an All-American at Chico State. Brad wrestled for legendary coach Jack Fernandez at Maricosta High School, who happens to be my wife's father. And Brad was very slick. He developed quite a wrestling reputation for himself. He then went to El Camino College, wrestled a year there, took third in state, and then went to Cal State Bakersfield. Brad and I go way back to those days in the early 70s where we competed with each other in high school. I want to thank Jeff Smith. Jeff is right at my table. Jeff and his wife Sharon, they've been supporters of mine from the get-go. That is with my coaching career. Jeff was kind of my mentor while I was at Artesia High School in the 80s. Jeff and his wife Sharon are here today, as I said already. And when I was hired at Artesia High School, Jeff was leaving Artesia High School, going to Cerritos College, where he was hired as the new wrestling coach. And I think he wrestled, I asked him tonight, he coached the team for 29 seasons. And then he finished the last 10 years of his career as the athletic director. So thank you, Jeff, for telling Mara Clisby, the principal at the time at Artesia High School, this is your story. She said, okay, Jeff, who do we hire? Should we hire, what was his name? Rick Stratton from Norwalk High School, who had coaching experience, or should we hire John Phillips? And thank you for saying John Phillips, because that's when my coaching career started in 1979. Thank you, Jeff, for having an open ear and helping me in my early years of coaching. I want to thank Nam Tran and Tien Tran. They're right here. And that's Nam and Tran. Thank you. I've got to thank Kevin Cheney. I've got to thank Kyle Cheney and Scott Cheney for your support all these years. And the first, just so you know, the first time I heard about your family was, hey, you got a guy that's coming in that he's getting recruited. Well, I don't know if Brandstander would back this up, but he's getting recruited all the way to Poway. And that was Scott, of course. And luckily for me, the Cheney stayed at Irvine High School, and Scott finished 4th in state. Kyle finished as CIF Masters champion. And we had a lot of experiences together that made me a better coach and hopefully had an impact on them as they went on and continued wrestling collegiately. Scott at Oklahoma U and Kyle at San Luis Obispo, Cal Poly. So thank you guys. And for Vince Silva. Vince is here tonight. Kyle took 2nd in state for Vince Silva at Santa Ana College. So congratulations. I've got to mention posthumously acknowledgement of Bruce Rockwell, better known as Rocky, for being a significant part of our success in the Irvine High School wrestling in the 90s. Rocky is no longer with us, but would love to be sitting here. I also need to acknowledge posthumously my father-in-law, Jack Fernandez, my wife's father, the legendary coach from Maricosta High School, who assisted me as a volunteer for 10 years. He came to Irvine High School as a volunteer for his grandson, Jason, who in 1988 was kept on coaching and substitute teaching after Jason's graduation due to his love of the sport, due to the love of the kids, and due to his love of the coaches. Jack taught me it's the technical part and the moves of the sport that matter the most. I want to acknowledge and thank all those wrestlers who I've not mentioned and yet had a significant impact on their lives. Many times I've been approached by former wrestlers and students who shared with me the positive influence I had on them, and I didn't even realize it. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of your life. It's been an exceptional journey, and a lot of work went into it, but nonetheless, it was a very satisfying journey. Thank you all again. Thank you.
Tony is one of the top high school wrestling coaches in Southern California. As head coach at Brawley High School, he has compiled a remarkable dual meet winning record of over 95%. And no one who was at the California State Wrestling Championship this past February can forget the first state champion victory by a Brawley High School wrestler. Tony is not able to attend tonight, but he sent us this note that he wished us to read on his behalf. I wish I could make it, but we prepare for the worst at times. I am truly grateful for this honor. We have a purpose in this lifetime, and this is our job, to make individuals discover who and what can be accomplished in this lifetime. Let's please have a hand for the 2023 inductee into the National Wrestling Hall of Fame for lifetime service to wrestling for Mr. Tony Leon. The next recipient for the Lifetime Service Wrestling Award is Dr. Ken Lane. I've been trying to get a rule approved in the rules book for several years, and it states the following: go get Doc Lane. He has been a fixture at the top postseason high school tournaments for years. His ability to quickly and efficiently deal with any medical issue is invaluable. Ladies and gentlemen, 2023 inductee into the National Wrestling Hall of Fame for lifetime service to wrestling, Dr. Kenneth Lane.
Absolutely so honored to be part of this family, and we'll talk more about that in just a second. But my life with wrestling began in my living room, as it probably did all of you, with my dad, Bob Lane. He wrestled on ships during World War II, and so we rolled around, and it wasn't until I was in junior high school that I could actually take him down. But I eventually went to Bakersfield High School and wrestled for Olin Polite, who is a member of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame, and the rest of that is history. But my senior year, I applied for a Air Force Academy scholarship, and I went to Edwards Air Force Base, and my vision was 2200, and they were looking for pilots for the Vietnam War, so I didn't get in. So I come home, and Jose, I'm at Bakersfield High, Jose's at South High. He's in the National Wrestling Hall of Fame as well, as you know, and eventually became the first coach of Cal State Bakersfield, winning national championships. He heard about my situation, and so he called Dave Hollinger and Dave Abel. Dave Abel is now a member of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame, and said, look, you got to recruit this kid. You know, he'll be one of your best students, and he's really tough. Well, so I got a half scholarship, so I went to UCLA on a half history and half wrestling scholarship, and I did do well in wrestling. Those were the days when you start dehydrated, and I wanted to be a scientist, and so after a year of wrestling, I gave up my, at UCLA, I gave up my wrestling scholarship. But because of getting beat up by Mark and starving and dehydrating and wanting to be a biochemist, I gave up my scholarship and I eventually became a biochemist, and that led to medical school. So the fact of the matter is, wrestling got me into UCLA, and that made me a doctor. So I owe all of my career to the sport of wrestling. So thank you very much. I want to thank Mike Stricker for nominating me, and for Dale Defner, that is Defner, not Hefner, for supporting me, and obviously the entire committee to support me to the National Wrestling Hall of Fame. This is an extraordinary honor. It's amazing. But it would have never happened if it wasn't for my wife, Lori. Yeah, Lori. Besides being my personal supporter and my love of my life, and yes, I'm Ken, and I married Barbie. The fact of the matter is, besides being the love of my life, she's also my banker and my financier. And for all the time I've been involved with wrestling and sports medicine for 35, wrestling for 23, she's never balked at the cost of what it takes to be involved with amateur wrestling. And for that, I'm here today. So thank you, Lori. I'm almost done. My wife said make it quick, and Kathy Black said 2 minutes, so I think I'm past that. Okay, but I've got to be involved with the medical staff of USA CIF Wrestling. I work with the best athletic trainers, chiropractors, physical therapists. Bob Forrester, a friend of mine, physical therapist in Santa Monica, was Kobe Bryant's physical therapist his entire career, and he's one of our wrestling physical therapists. So, two of the best athletic trainers in the country is Mike Sola and Ken Burns, sitting at my table. But what happens with the medical staff is when we meet at state or national events, the doctors and physical therapists and chiropractors and athletic trainers get together, and someone eventually says, so what's new? And so almost every event, all of the medical staff learns what's the most important about skin infections, concussions, putting joints in, how to tape joints, how to evaluate eye injuries. And so we raise the knowledge and the expertise of all the medical staff multiple times throughout the year. There's not a sport, and there's not another sport that does that. I'm telling you, wrestling has the best medical staff in this country, and that's USA Wrestling and CIF Wrestling, so that's a fact. But Jim Porter, who was the head trainer for the US Open and Cliff Keen and so forth, and Fargo, has been keeping stats on injuries, mainly concussions, for 35 years. And he realized that it would take, when someone comes in with a possible concussion, it takes about an hour before you know really the degree of the concussion and so forth. But he was the first person in sports to establish a concussion protocol. This was 10 years before the NFL even admitted there were concussions. So wrestling established the first concussion protocols. We have Dr. B.J. Anderson from Minnesota, who's been taking pictures of skin injuries for about 25 years, or skin infections, and he publishes them and shares them with everybody. So the medical staff of wrestling knows skin infections better than anybody else on the planet. And after the Beijing Olympics, Zeke Jones came back. He was our national team coach. He's at Arizona State now. He came back and we didn't do well, and he said, damn it, we're not going to starve our athletes anymore. So he hired Jennifer Gibson, who was a Canadian nutritionist, and she came in and she transformed our sport from a starvation, dehydration sport to an eating sport. when I traveled 99 to about 2011, I would take about 50 pounds of IV fluids with me overseas. I would be going out the back door and my wife would say, "You're a cheater." Well, we weren't cheating. It was legal in those days, but I had to rehydrate our athletes so they wouldn't be able to compete internationally. But Jennifer came in and she brought the new science of nutrition into our sport, and now our senior athletes and our NCAA athletes, nobody starves, nobody's dehydrated, and we won the world championships last year. But the problem is our high school coaches are still starving their kids, so we've still got some work to do. But when we had the World Cup in LA, back in, what was it, about 8 years ago? 10 years ago? I put on a sports medicine conference, and I had Jennifer as my lead speaker, and we're off stage, right? We're off stage, and she's about ready to give her speech. And I go, "Jenny, what's the most important thing I need to know about sports nutrition?" She goes, or combat nutrition. She said, "Ken, half your plate's fruits and vegetables, the other half is all protein. You eat no processed carbs, so you eat nothing out of a bag or a box. You try not to drink your calories at all." I was a big milk drinker at the time, so after I started following her advice, I ended up losing 40 pounds because I drank about a half a gallon of milk a day. So you don't drink your calories, and you'll lose 2 pounds a week, and when you get to your weight, then you start adding back rice and beans. And I go, "Are you kidding me? It's so simple." She looked at me and goes, "Dr. Lane, it has to be simple. I'm dealing with wrestlers." So we've watched the treatment of concussions, the identification and treatment of skin infections, and converting our sport from starvation and dehydration in my lifetime. I am so blessed to be a part of the medical staff for CIF and USA Wrestling. So again, thank you very much. I'm honored to be a part of this family. I've been involved in a lot of sports. There's no family like there is wrestling. God bless you.
The next service award for wrestling goes to Neil Campbell. I've always admired officials who referee multiple sports. Their ability to master different athletic competitions is remarkable. And what is truly impressive is extended longevity in a sport, which defines Neil Campbell. He has been refereeing wrestling for over 50 years and is still going strong. Ladies and gentlemen, 2023 inductee into the National Wrestling Hall of Fame for lifetime service to wrestling, Mr. Neil Campbell.
All right, that was to make sure you knew who I was. You may not recognize the face, but you certainly would recognize the whistle. Now, I talk about shock when I got the first call and said, "You're being considered to go up on a wall in Stillwater, Oklahoma." And I thought, wonder what that's going to do. Then I get a call from Dale Defner, and he informed me that I was nominated to be in the Hall of Fame. And I said, "Come on, guys. You don't do that to guys who never wrestled very long, never won a state championship, never wrestled in the Olympics, and is relatively unknown." But he persisted, and I finally got my letter from Stillwater, which, by the way, I've already thanked them. So I'm here tonight to thank Dale and his group, and I'm 86 years old, and I have that disease, CRS, but I'm not allowed to say what it is. But anyways, I want to thank those guys and gals and everybody else that was involved in getting me here, and I appreciate it very much. Now, when you look at me and you say, okay, you've been officiating how long? And I said, last year was my 52nd year of doing wrestling. In the meantime, I've worked wrestling, football, track, softball, and volleyball. Now, softball and volleyball were a bad experience. Wrestling was wonderful. Football was tough. Got a cracked rib, I got a concussion. They didn't know about it, but I got a concussion. And so here I am tonight, and I want to thank all you people for being out and looking up here at me. Now, my history is I was born in 1937 in a small town in Pennsylvania in the Allegheny Mountains. 125 people in that town, and they all worked at the brick plant for the steel mills. When I got to be a freshman in high school, actually I went to the high school in the junior high first, and then we got to play football, and I lettered 4 years in football. And my brother was 2 years ahead of me, and he's the one that drove me because we lived about 18 miles from the school, and the bus wouldn't wait for us. So he was wrestling, and I said, what am I sitting in the car waiting for him to get done with practice for? So I went out. 3 years on the mat as a wrestler. 52 years on the mat as an official. Which was the greatest chore? The 3 years on the mat. Now, back in those days, the uniforms were different. Girls didn't wrestle. I'm ashamed to say this, but we told the girls if they wanted to learn to wrestle, they had to go to the drive-in out by Clarion. So anyways, we didn't make very many popular moves in those days. I married my high school sweetheart in 1955. Graduated in May, married her in December. We moved to Cleveland, Ohio. We didn't move, excuse me. We didn't move there. We were stopping to see her parents on the way through, and we got snowed in. We were headed for California or Arizona to start a new life. We stopped, I went down and got a job at Alcoa, the Aluminum Company of America. We were there for 20-some years. I didn't get to California till 1970. And I got here by the cost of Alcoa, who paid me to come. I graduated from Cleveland State University, night school, 13 years. Company called me in and said, we're closing this plant. You're going to be the last one out of here, and you're going to open the plant in Corona, California. Having 2 children, 2 boys, and of course, let me say this now, my greatest contribution to wrestling is my son Randy Campbell, who's over here with me, coached at Elsinore, then he went to Centennial. He was a 400 team winner at Centennial, and they didn't keep records in Elsinore, so we just figured he had 400 there too. So we were 800 team tournament winnings. My granddaughter, Nikki Randall, I don't know what to do without her. My family's all moved to Idaho, I think. My wife died 6 years ago. We were together for 63 years. So things we do in life, if we stick to them, they pay off. So anyways, I lettered 3 years in wrestling in high school. That's the time I spent as a wrestler. Teacher that taught me how to wrestle was long gone. Most of the guys that I wrestled with or against are long gone. Back in those days, Pennsylvania was divided into districts. We were in District 9. Finally, in my senior year, I took second place to the previous state champion. And in those days, you didn't take any second place people with you. You went by yourself to state. So I didn't make state. So there's a career of great guys that I missed out on. But then I joined a group of great guys, and my biggest contribution is probably having Randy Campbell coach at Elsinore, and then when Centennial opened, he went to Centennial. Probably more people know him than me, because when we come into a gym as an official, the only thing you remember is that whistle. You don't know my name, thank God. You don't follow me to my car, thank God. I come on the mat, call the calls, and you don't complain. Oh, I'm lying now, aren't I? How many guys went to the table? How many guys went to the table and didn't believe that we called something right or wrong? I had one incident where I was working with an assistant, and the coach complained about a call, and I looked at him and said, okay, I will double check with my assistant. My assistant said, you called it right. I went over to tell the coach, I said, the call stands, it was right. Hate grew up in his face. He reached in his pocket and he said, you guys need to read this rule book. I said, very calmly, you need to leave. He said, I'm not leaving and you can't make me. I said, okay. Turned around and walked away, and he said, where are you going? I said, I'm going over to the table, and I'm going to take all your team's points and winnings off the chart, as long as you're in this room. He took off, hit that door, and it slammed open like it was coming off. So we have a motto in officiating: we stay calm, we call what we see everything, and we stay in shape so we can do the job. And if we don't do the job, sorry, there's nothing you can do about it. Thanks for everybody being here.
The next Lifetime Service Award goes to Michael Young. Michael Young's career as a wrestling coach was unparalleled. He compiled 662 dual meet victories during his tenure. His work ethic and demeanor were an example to all of those around him, and he impacted the lives of countless wrestlers. Ladies and gentlemen, 2023 inductee into the National Wrestling Hall of Fame for lifetime service to wrestling, Mr. Michael Young.
I wish I could win 662 dual meet wins at this age, but hi, for you who do not know me, I'm John Ruggiano. I'll be speaking on behalf of Michael Young and Michael's wonderful wife, Cheryl Young. Thank you again, Cheryl, for giving me this opportunity to honor Mike with this recognition. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the National Wrestling Hall of Fame for honoring Michael, his family, and the entire Antelope Valley wrestling community with this distinction. For all the members of this year's inductees, you are truly an inspiration to all of us, the coaches, the staff, the members of the wrestling community. Look up to each and every one of you for your service to our great sport. I got to know Mike my first year of coaching. I coached for 12 years up in the Antelope Valley, starting in 2005, 2006. And I had, I was a high school art teacher, and just coming out of grad school, got a job in the Antelope Valley from Spokane, Washington. and knew nothing about the Antelope Valley. Just knew I wanted to get back down to California where my family is from. And so I started asking around, and there was only one name that came to mind when I asked about wrestling in the Antelope Valley, and it was Mike Young. I was blessed to grow up in a really strong wrestling community up in Spokane, and my high school wrestling coach was actually a Hall of Fame member, was inducted my senior year of high school, and I got to watch the process. And from the first day that I interacted with Mike, from the mystique and the legend of wondering who this man was, I had initially hoped and thought that I was going to be coaching under him, but in fact I coached against him at the rival school, or one of his rival schools. When I got to meet Mike, everything about the myth of the man was lifted, but I never ceased to learn more and more and more from Mike. And I speak that probably for each and every one of us who had an opportunity to coach against him. If you heard that number, it's amazing. 662 dual meet wins in a 35-year career. Just outstanding. Mike was a human calculator. It was amazing. There was so many times when I would watch Mike win a duel, you felt like you had him at the grasp, and he would win a duel. And one of the things that was so amazing about Mike was the manner in which he won every single duel. He won with class and dignity, and he imparted that upon his wrestlers. And on top of that, Mike did that, never actively engaging in trying to pull people into mentor, but he was always there to mentor people. Mike and his family brought me in to their family at an early time when I just moved to the Antelope Valley, and I was always amazed by the fact that no matter how many dual meets Mike won, no matter how many CIF titles his team won, and just to go through the numbers, and you can look at it all on page 24. It's pretty impressive. Mike won 4 city championships when he was at Franklin High School. He was runner-up 4 times. He was a 10-time league championship coach, and he only coached there for 11 seasons. After that, in Franklin High School, he moved up to the Antelope Valley, where he took over the Highland Wrestling program and won 15 more league titles, 4 more CIF titles, and also came up runner-up 4 times. In the course of all of that extraordinary success that Mike had, it was very, I'm known for doing 2 things, and I'm trying not to do one of them. I'm known for crying during speeches, and I'm also known for kind of baffling things up. So I apologize. I'm trying to honor Mike, knowing that he was a very stoic man. So I'm going to try not to cry here. But it was the virtues and the character that really impressed me on every single opportunity that I had to work and spend time with Mike. And I can say that for each and every one of the coaches that I worked with, that I coached against Mike, and for all the wrestlers that he impacted. Over a course of 35 years, just countless individuals he impacted. Last year we lost Mike, and it was truly a hit to our community. But one of the things that all of us that have been impacted by Mike know is that his legacy is going to continue through the people that he imparted all of his wisdom and knowledge on. And so I would just like to take this time to thank you again, the Hall of Fame, for truly inducting an extraordinary man, and look forward to his legacy being immortalized in the National Wrestling Hall of Fame. Thank you.
Rich has been a mainstay in Orange County wrestling for over 25 years, both as a wrestler and as a coach. He is a leading advocate for girls wrestling and has coached at Aliso Niguel High School since 2015. Ladies and gentlemen, 2023 inductee into the National Wrestling Hall of Fame for lifetime service to wrestling, Mr. Rich Trevino.
Some of you know me and some of you don't, but I guess that's the point. Because it's not really about me, it's about these kids that we coach. We as coaches wouldn't achieve these things if these kids didn't buy into what we were selling. I'm honored to be standing here receiving this award. Never in a million years did I expect this. Coach Doc gave me a call one day and he said, "We're doing this." I said, "Are you sure? I don't think I'm the guy." And he's like, "Yeah, you're the guy." So thanks, Coach Doc, for that. I want to thank the National Hall of Fame, of course. I appreciate this. This is amazing. Seeing my name on the plaque over there, it kind of put everything into perspective, and it's real. That's amazing. Congratulations to all the other inductees. It's an honor to go down in history with all you guys. As I said before, this was not a me thing. This was a collective thing. And the reason why I'm standing here is because of everybody that helped me along the way and everybody that bought in. So I'm just going to go into my thank yous. I want to thank God for this moment. I want to thank my beautiful wife, high school sweetheart. Carm, stand up. It's going to be less than 3. My beautiful high school sweetheart, Carmen. Without you supporting me and being selfless, this is not possible. I want to thank my babies, Eliana, Emma, Chrissy, and my little guy, Ricardo. I want to let them know when you put your mind to something, anything is possible. Hard work and dedication is the only way. I want to thank my mom for believing in me nonstop. I want to thank my dad for telling me that he hopes wrestling pays off for me one day, but in the meantime, I should probably get a real job. I want to thank my sisters, Jerry, Chris, Rose. They're here from Texas. I want to thank my niece, Elisa. I want to thank my sisters, Maria, April, Myra and Art over here. He's not a sister, but he's one of mine. My nieces and nephews, my brother Steve. None of these coaching awards would happen if it wasn't you next to me, bro. I want to thank Tony and Joe, my brothers. I want to thank my high school coach for telling me that I need wrestling, wrestling doesn't need me. Coach Doc, Coach Corey, I appreciate you guys. You guys shaped me more than you know. Coach Doc, thanks for all the years of the glasses. I appreciate that. If you don't know that about Doc, he's so selfless. He pays. Now I know he pays out of his own pocket. When I was a kid, I thought the glasses were free. So I appreciate you, Doc. Coach Sedlick, Santa Margarita. Coach Caldwell is here today with his wife, Lecky. Appreciate you. Coach Hucks, Marsh, thank you for coaching with me, brother. If you need a haircut, go see him at Golden Crown on Crown Valley. Coach Pat, Julio, Coach Silva. Coach Silva taught me how to wrestle. Where's he at? Is he getting, he's drunk somewhere? Yeah. Coach Vito's with them, always yin and yang over there. Alfontes, Coach Shaq, I appreciate you. You should be in the Hall of Fame with us soon. Dr. Jason Hull, will you stand up for me, brother? That was one of the meanest wrestlers I've ever coached in my life. We had to tape his nose every day because he was split open, bleeding every day. Gabe Aguilar, Art Aguilar, Damon, Kahlberg, 1%. We called him 1% because he stepped on the scale and his body fat was 1%. So that stuck forever. It was 1%. Stephen King, Mike King, Cruz, String Bean, Logan, that's my man right there. Jalen Vega was the first girl to be brave enough to come out and start the girls wrestling team. We were the first team in Southern Orange County to have a full girls lineup, and we started that movement. I got to thank that first girls team, Irena, she's here, sitting here. Bree, Fiona, Allison, Lily, Amarise, Peyton, Summer, Tristan, Sierra. And then a couple years after that, we had the Orange County Team of the Year with Kendall, Ava, Jay, Anto, Andrea, Christy, Angie, Tiny, Roz. Without you guys, this award is not possible. I mean that 100%. Coaching girls has actually given me a new love for the sport. I was getting kind of tired of having to beat boys up all the time. And, you know, the reason why you got to do that is because, as coaches know, you know, boys get buffed, they get a six-pack, right? And they stop listening to you, right? So now you got to go in and you got to go alpha, right? And then you got to go beat them up. That's the only way, right? But it's legal, right? It's legal. But you got to beat them up. And then after that, they say, okay, he's still for real. But I don't like that. I don't do that anymore. I'm too old for that. Thank you to the National Wrestling Hall of Fame again. I appreciate you guys. This is a great honor, and I'm truly humbled. And last but not least, I thank wrestling for telling me the truth about myself and molding me into the best version of me. Thank you.
The next Lifetime Service Award goes to Mike Lingell. I've known Mike for over 25 years, and we have always had this disagreement. Mike is from Pennsylvania, and I am from Oklahoma, and we differ on which state has a greater tradition in wrestling. Mike is one of the top wrestling referees in California. His leadership and mentoring skills are an example to all officials, particularly the next generation of new referees. Ladies and gentlemen, 2023 inductee into the National Wrestling Hall of Fame for lifetime service to wrestling, Mr. Mike Lingell.
Before I get into my dissertation, I've officiated matches with every one of the coaches who were honored tonight, and I have to concur. They were all first-class individuals and knew how to coach their matches during a match. I know a wrestler's in trouble when he has a coach in the corner and he's down on the mat and the coach says, "Stand up." My wife could say that. So anyway, when I started my journey of being a wrestling official 54 years ago in Western Pennsylvania, never with all my questionable calls that I would think that I would receive this honor. I would like to thank the Hall of Fame committee, especially Natalie and Karen for running great tournaments and making our life so much easier. Thank you, ladies. Next, I would like to thank my 8th grade coach. No, not wrestling, basketball. He cut me. Can you believe it? He said I didn't have enough finesse. I went home and I had to tell my mother I didn't make the team. So instead of getting an arm put around me and saying, "Michael, he just didn't recognize your talent," my mother, Julia, said, "You better find something to do during the winter because you're not going to stay at home." How we get, okay. The other thing is, let's start by clearing up one thing. I know a lot of you have thinks I've been around for a lot of years, which I have, but no, I did not do Abe Lincoln's match. 54 years of blowing a fox whistle, you lose some hearing. Okay, on a personal note, wrestling is where I discovered who I could become. It showed me what was on the other side of hard work, which was the success that I craved. It taught me the value of being resilient in the face of adversity and how to bounce back after a loss. It taught me the value of hard work and discipline, weight management, and training. And it gave me, an insecure introvert, the confidence to go out in life and make my mark. Next, I would like to thank every wrestler, every parent, and every coach here this evening. Without you, we would not have this sport, and I would have not had 54 years of the pleasure of officiating the greatest sport on the face of the earth. People have asked me, Mike, in 54 years, what is the most memorable match you've ever called? And I've had the pleasure of doing a few, but the most memorable was back at the Beast of the East semifinal match between Coleman Scott, the #1 rated wrestler in the country, Western Pennsylvania, who was wrestling the #4 rated wrestler in the country from DeMatha Catholic in Baltimore. Coleman Scott was down on the mat, referee's position, 12 seconds to go, down 4-2. Okay, I'm thinking this is going to be a big upset because all the DeMatha Catholic wrestler had to do, push him away, step back, and time would be over. When I blew the whistle, Coleman did a short sit out, reached over, grabbed the opponent's head, put him on his back, earning 2 for the reversal, 2 for the near fall, and winning the match 6-4 with less than 12 seconds to go. At this time, I'd like to reach out to Orange County, specifically starting with the Orange County Wrestling Officials Association. I'd like to give honors to Bruce Terry, longtime friend, two-time California state champion, current president Ted Narkunis, Kenny Torres, Dion Savage, Tom Milich, Dave Iacobucci, and Richard Van Fleet. Gentlemen, stand up. Come on, you've given a lot. Okay. Next, I'd like to thank the past members of the Orange County Association. Dave Alexander, Rob Allerman, Jay Bersini, Jimmy McQuillis, who's here tonight. Jimmy, where are you? Stand up, Jimmy. Okay. And most importantly, a legend in Orange County, Dick Morris. I'd also like to thank the Orange County coaches. I'd like to thank all of the Orange County family for welcoming me into their family of wrestling. Thank you. Next, what does an official and a wrestler have in common when they step onto the mat? Each one of them is there on their own. They don't have a teammate to support them or somebody to help them with close calls. We have to live by our own preparation, number one. Number two, we both have coaches yelling at us. I was supposed to be a bigger laugh, sorry. All right, this may get a bigger laugh. I'd like to give special recognition to Steve Lawson. Steve, did I tell him to stand up? Steve has always been a great coach. I mean, he can give you a lot of stuff from the bench, but afterwards, you can go to Kelly's and talk about it. I'd also like to thank Steve and his brother Scott for letting me be part of the Lawson and Lawson Show, otherwise known as Canyon High School versus El Dorado dual match, the theater of the absurd. Thank you, Steve. Okay, another memorable wrestling moment occurred at the Disney duels. You may or may not know, Pennsylvania and New Jersey have a visceral dislike for each other. It filters down to the parents. I was getting ready to watch the championship match between PA and New Jersey, and these two mothers were jawing each other. The mother from Pennsylvania was holding a baby, going at it with the lady from New Jersey. And the next thing I know, the mother hands the baby to another lady and cold cocks the lady from New Jersey. Parents will be parents. Okay. I'd like to give a special thanks, since girls wrestling is growing phenomenally in California, to the Dick, yes, let's hear it for the ladies. I'd like to thank the Dick Morris Wrestling Committee of Bruce Terry, Ted Narkunis, and Richard Van Fleet, and a special thanks to Doc for all his contributions to taking the Dick Morris tournament in 2 years that have grown from a one-day tournament with over 450 participants to this year we're going to 2 days. Already we have teams from New Mexico and Northern California that have signed up for the event at Huntington High School. So this is going to be the 5 counties for girls in Orange County. I'd also like to thank my extended family, Maureen, Gabby, and Cash, Matt, and Roxy. Their family could not be here tonight. Thank you so much for being here. Oh, let's see, what else? Oh, I've saved the best to last. My wife of 37 years, Kathy. When we started dating years ago, Kathy had never seen a wrestling match. So I thought I better take her and let her see what half of the year I'm going to be spending my time doing. So we went to Alamany High School, which was a Catholic girls' school in the San Fernando Valley. And their coach made Steve Lawson look like a shrinking violet. Their coach would incite the crowd, get them all in uproar, and yes, during the course of the evening, I had, numerous boos. On the way home, Kathy said, you know, Mike, I went to Catholic schools all my life, and we were always taught about sportsmanship. What I saw tonight was totally unacceptable. I'm going to call the principal tomorrow, which she did. Turns out her and the principal had gone to school together. So the next time I ran into the coach, he said, Mike, I don't know what you knew or who you knew, but I'll never give you any trouble again. Thank you, Kathy. Let's see, I had a couple stories, one in Spearfish about bulls and castration, but I was told to leave that out. But the next thing, and this is not about me. I look at the back page of your brochures here. Very well done, by the way, very professional. I look at this, I do not see one biological female's picture here, right? Am I right or am I wrong? Okay, so getting back to Abe Lincoln. Behind every great wrestler, there's a mother. Abe's mother was Nancy Hawks, reputed to be a top wrestler in Kentucky. Yes. In fact, I got a quote, can't make this up, from a judge that says, oh yes, I wrestled Nancy many a times and got my butt kicked each one of those. So I would challenge the committee to do some research and get the photo of the lady who made Abe Lincoln a great wrestler. In closing, I'd like to thank the sport of wrestling for giving me a great life that I've had. I've traveled all over the country, made wonderful friends, visited a lot of places. Kathy's traveled with me. She can always find a museum, whether it's in Dover, Delaware, the Victrola Museum, or in Spearfish, the Frontier Founding Museum. So I've had a great life thanks to wrestling, and thank all of you for being here this evening.
Final Lifetime Service Award tonight goes to Mark Calentino. I've known Mark for over 25 years as the coach for San Clemente High School. His teams were always well coached, fundamentally sound, and prepared for battle. I refereed many duels between San Clemente and Laguna Hills High School, a great Orange County rivalry. Mark's wrestling duel victory total of over 400 wins is a testament to his coaching ability. Ladies and gentlemen, 2023 inductee into the National Wrestling Hall of Fame for lifetime service to wrestling, Mr. Mark Calentino.
It's a stoked that you are our MC tonight. He did a lot of our matches, and if you know, he was a big-time Division I NCAA at the tournaments, did the big matches there, and it just, I love it. Love it, love it. When I was the president of the Coach Association, we made him one of the, we inducted him to the Orange County Wrestling Hall of Fame too. So being here, standing on the stage, in 1978, when they opened Laguna Hills High School, I was a sophomore, and maybe 250 yards from where I'm standing right now is where the first time I ever stepped on a wrestling mat, right over here. So this is kind of awesome. Very few people knew me for high school. I have family members and stuff like that, but I was a derelict. I was a problem child. My parents tried, right? My dad was in the Navy and a cop, and I earned every beating I got. My sophomore year, actually my freshman year, a series of things happened that changed the trajectory of my life, and ultimately it was bringing me into wrestling, which changed who I was and what I became. My freshman year, they decided because of my actions that I couldn't finish the school year at Mission High School, so I got sent to continuation school. Silverado. Bailey Doherty, he's the first individual I want to talk about. He was a principal there, and he said, a kid like this, he needs his athletics. So he knew that they suggested I spent my sophomore year at the continuation school, but he says, no, new school, new start, send him over there. So Bailey Doherty gets me into Laguna Hills High School. Football, me and my brothers, was our number one. I'm playing football, and my linebacker coach, .8, you're probably not going to be able to play football in college. So I wanted to wrestle in college. Didn't really want to go to college. I didn't want to go to school. I wasn't good at it, and I didn't try. And that was the year that Orange Coast College had dropped their program, which is where I would have gone because my parents' business was a block over from it. Well, to my fortune, I end up at Golden West College, and Dale Defner and Raul Duarte, who are both also here, were fantastic, positive leaders, great coaches, real tight camaraderie. I mean, it just was a fantastic experience. While I'm there, another person who helped change the trajectory of my life, because my assumption was, I'm going to make pizzas, I'm going to make pasta, I'm good at it, that's just what I'm going to do. Well, I had a biology teacher, her name was Bonnie Rook, and for the first time in my life, it was a subject that I ate it up. Bio, it was fantastic, it was interesting, it's something that everybody in the school had to take, so it was like 480 kids that are in the class. And as we're going through the class, I had kids asking me for stuff. Nobody ever come to me to help them study. That didn't happen. Maybe to cheat. But I end up with like the third highest grade out of all these kids. I'm like, this is something I could do. This is something I could get a degree in. Well, I transferred to San Diego State. That was magnificent. It was fun, played rugby there. Ended up at Southern California College. They didn't have a wrestling team, but I continued going to freestyle term slate. It's now Vanguard University, and they do have a team now. Between that, after wrestling at Golden West, I did one more semester at Golden West before I transferred to San Diego State. This is 1984. And Cliff Jarmy, see in the back, my junior year, he got the job as a frost-off coach. He helped coach with Dell, and it was his first year as a head coach. I'd finished wrestling Golden West. He says, why don't you come on, work with me a little bit. Be my assistant coach. Okay, I'll do it. And when I come on campus, immediately parents are giving me respect, the kids are coming with respect, and it really made me feel like I can do something great with this. Maybe I want to teach. Maybe I want to teach and coach. And that became my goal then. I finished with degrees in biology and chemistry, got hired at La Quinta High School, and I ended up coaching at Los Amigos High School with Gary and Arnold Garcia. They were with Azevedo back in the day. Pat Sato, who's one of our local officials. He assisted. He had graduated, but he came back and helped, and he's still officiating. Still have a great friendship with him. That summer of '84 was the '84 Olympics, and my father and John Owens they were working the wrestling venue at Anaheim Convention Center for wrestling. One of them was the manager in the morning, one of the manager in the evening. They overlapped shifts. They became friends. And John at this time is coach at San Clemente High School, but couldn't get an assistant coach for years. Drove him nuts. So he keeps asking, he'd stop by my father's deli and ask him, when's your son graduating? When your son's graduating? Well, because of the friendship of John Owens and my father, I ended up getting hired at San Clemente High School in 1990, and I've been there ever since. This was my last year coaching at San Clemente High School. I coached there 33 years, 35 years total coaching, and it's been a fantastic run, fantastic life. I had a fair amount of success coaching, and I had something to do with it, but if you've run a big program, a successful program, you know that you can only do so much on your own without great people assisting you, without great people working with you, without great people helping you. And a bunch of these guys are here today. First, I want to talk about John Owens, who was my mentor. When I went in there, I was all fired up, and it's all about headbutting and just attacking, and he's like, easy. First, we have to be on the kids to keep their grades up. The other stuff will come. And he was absolutely correct. He taught me so much. He taught me to be humble, to be, well, the hardworking thing came with being a family business, but I learned so much about coaching, about running a program, about being a good dude, about just being a loving father, watching him with his daughters. I mean, it was so impressive. Most of those three, I don't know why my nose is itching right now. It's like when I'm in the dentist chair. So we had two separate rooms. We have a wrestling room and we have the back side of the gym, and that novice room is a separate program. Some years we'd have 50 and 55 kids down there, because oftentimes we have between 90, 100 kids in the program. And almost all of those 33 years, all those coaches are here. When I got there, raise your hand please, Coach Rod Cummings was my frost-off coach running the frost-off room. After that, for about 20 years, Rich Brown ran my novice room. And the last 6 or 7 years, a guy that had 11 varsity letters in high school and coached his cross-country team to second place in state last year, 4th in the country. Dave Luciani has run it. Other guys in the back, standing in the corner, trying to pretend he's Italian. It's Rich Santana. Rich was a two-time Division I NCAA All-American at Syracuse in 90 and 91. Some other people that aren't here, just impressive. I talk about, what can I do? How great am I? I'm only as great as the people around me. For the first 5 or 6 years that I was there, Bob Anderson was in our room every day. Bob Anderson was a two-time Pan Am Games champion, and in '96 was one of our Olympic Greco-Roman coaches. Terry McCann, two-time NCAA champion, 1960 Olympic gold medalist. His grandkids are wrestling for us, so he was in the room all the time. You want to talk about intimidating? You're trying to show technique, and you have a world champion. You have these guys standing there, and the best was Terry McCann. You'd be showing something out of the corner of the room, you'd hear, "No!" He was bow-legged. He'd walk up, "That's not how we did it in Iowa. This is how," but you know what? You take it with humility, because look who I have in the room. Just stoked for the people that I've had around me. Oh, and I can't forget my college wrestling buddy that came out during COVID, that was one of our COVID coaches when we were doing the outside stuff, David Boom Boom Gatton. He's a world champion. Some other guys, help me out here. Joe Mark had those great teams at Anaheim High School in the 90s. Always top 3, 4 in the county. Was a AA official for a bunch of years. Terry Wigglesworth, right? Simi Valley, Dana Hills for a long, long time. His son Scott Wigglesworth. Tom Millich, one of our varsity coaches, coached a number of different schools here in Orange County, and it's a big-time official now. Steve Guerra came from the Central Coaching Coach. Steve was famous for, "What do you need, Cal? I will never say no." Fantastic dude. Administrative support. Those of you that are coaches know that administrators aren't always a positive when it comes to our sport, but I've had a few. I think about the year 2007, when George Duarte tells me, if you got a shot at CF Championship, I'll come up and I'll hang out. I'll come out and watch it happen. I'm like, administrators don't go to wrestling tournaments. George showed up on Saturday morning, right after weigh-ins, hung out with the parents, went to breakfast with the kids, stayed in the stands all day, and he was there when we accepted the championship trophy. And for an administrator to do that, it meant a lot to me. But nobody more important to our program, and there's a lot of guys here from the South Coast of Seaview Leagues, they can attest to this. A champion for our sport, my athletic director who's here, John Hamrow. John, very supportive, very generous. So many of the things that I probably couldn't have gotten done. I was able to get done because John was in my corner. John was fighting because he knew that I had the kids' best interest at heart, and that's all that mattered to me. And what more can you ask from an athletic director than, as long as your phone doesn't ring, you let me do whatever I want. So he turned a blind eye to a lot of stuff. So it worked out. It was fantastic. Shout out to my buddies from college, Brian Shackelford, Dave Gatton, Dave Beaver. Wrestle with them, they're out here. In fact, they're coming from what? Idaho, Ohio, and Virginia. Rich Santana came out here from Central California, found the only flight that wasn't canceled. And a couple of my high school buddies, John Grimm and Bill Kogerman, wrestled here at Laguna Hills with me. It makes me happy. These are the guys that we also go to the NCAAs every year and stuff with a couple other guys we wrestle with. Very good times. My brothers, Craig and Jeff, growing up, doing sports, football, whatever, surfing and stuff, always doing stuff together in the competitive nature. And middle of the sophomore year, I taught Craig into coming out for wrestling, and our deal, when business is slowed down, we'd go out in front, other side, away from the pizza oven, and we'd be wrestling out there. And I remember one time, a customary police officer came in, he goes, "Hey, stop that." And Craig stands up and looks at me and goes, "It's my dad's place, we can do what we want." True story. Natalie, I want to thank you for keeping that TMI thing going, and we won matches because of the scouting I was able to do because of the records and everything I had access to. It's big asset. She still does CIF tournaments, does lots of tournaments. She still runs the Braxton State Championships, and it's really appreciated. The wrestling community of coaches. I see guys here. I didn't get to shake Randy Campbell's hand today. I was bummed. A lot of guys that are still coaching, guys that used to be coaching. It's fantastic. You have been part of my life, part of my extended family and the friendships and stuff. It is fantastic. Oh, Erwin Goldblum was my coach when I went with the All-Star team to Japan. I saw him here too. Another one of my coaches. Awesome dude. Joey Krebs, the Phantom Street artist. Okay, he makes that the award at the state champ, the Dave Schultz Award, the MVP at the state tournament. He makes that one. I just appreciate him. He always builds you up. He'll be introducing me to a world champion like I'm somebody. This is Mark County. You gotta know who this is, and it's humbling. I'll be quick, but I got people to thank. Dan Souza from SCORE Training for 33 years. He was the man that fixed the kids and tape up the head and all that stuff. He was fantastic, and also a very, very generous man. The little tiny lady back here with the gray hair, Josephine Calentino, my mother. From the age of 29 to 66, she worked 6 and 7 day weeks between 11 and 14-hour days, 2 weeks off a year. She did that because her goal was to set her sons up to have successful, good lives. And damn it if she didn't do it, just worker. And she's magnificent. Love, support. My mother-in-law, Gail Ramsey, who allowed us to continue working full-time when our kids were little, so that always positive, and just a big supporter, big fan. And I suppose, my children, Mark and Camille. A lot of time I wasn't there. A lot of time they're hanging out on the football field or in wrestling practices, stuff like that. Magnificent. Camille's stat girl, Mark, wrestled for a few years. Mark just got married last month to wonderful. Putting up for with me not being there. Now, the person that gave up the most with me coaching was my wife, my beautiful wife, Jennifer, married for 34 years, and she's still hot as hell. Raise your hand, Jennifer, so they can check you out. She don't lie. Thank you. A lot of guys get out of coaching because they're gone too much, because it takes a lot of time. For the first 17 years I was at San Clemente, I went from football to wrestling, and I was always gone. I was always doing stuff. I made sure I was there. That was one lesson John Owens taught me. When he told me, I spent my children's youth raising other people's kids. That was a big lesson. So I made sure I was there and stuff, but she picked up the slack and made sure it happened, and family is everything. I know, Coach, I know I'm too long, but people need to be thanked, okay? Hey, how many of you guys have seen the video in the classroom where a kid's selling dope in the back of the classroom? He's selling dope, and the teacher goes back to confront him, and they end up in a fisticuffs and fighting and on the floor? You know who that was, the guy in the video? That was him. True story. It happened about 10, 12 years ago. Okay, Dale Defner said. Okay, I'm going to stop talking. Thank you. Thank the committee. Okay, I made you pay for it, huh? And thank the National Hall of Fame. I've been there, and we're going to go again. Thank you.
Thanks everyone for coming. Go out and support a local wrestling event.